Let me say just a couple of words of introduction to Ambassador Ioannis Vrailas. He's the ambassador of Greece and the permanent representative of Greece to the European Union. As you can all easily understand, he has a very strategic position at very turbulent times. He's following a lot of what is happening and which is of essence to the interests of our country. In addition, I may add, of direct impression, he does a remarkable work with the Greek community in Brussels, and he's a very good friend, a pillar, and a mentor of Allonet. So we are very pleased to have you with us once more, dear Ambassador, and we are very glad to hear what you have to say. Please proceed.
Thank you, Angelos, and thank you very much for those very kind words. And I was sorry to see George Sifakis leave the stage. I was looking forward to saying hello. Another great old friend from Washington. We've done together several things. And George, if you're hearing, I hope that you will come to Brussels and we'll work on something together with Angelos there as well. It will certainly be a very exciting project. Angelos, you rightly referred to the Chinese proverb, better live through interesting times. The Chinese also say that for the times to be interesting, they shouldn't be times without problems. The hope is that you can find solutions to your problems. And let me tell you what the EU is doing in terms of solutions in order to adapt to a rapidly evolving geopolitical global landscape, and also to help achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, as we had agreed the UN a few years ago. One flagship project that I would want to particularly emphasize is the European Green Deal. It's a radical transformation of our economies and energy mix. It's a combination of policies aiming at tackling climate change while ensuring that this transition will be fair and just, leaving no one behind. The member states of the EU, in the Council, agreed recently the Fit for 55 legislative package. I don't want to bore you with all the various institutions that come into play in the decision-making in Brussels, but we hope that we can reach a final agreement with the European Parliament before 2023. This European Green Deal has several dealings. The first one is, of course, the environmental dimension and the need for urgent action. The Paris Agreement and the SDGs have set the guiding framework at the global level, and the EU has undertaken a leading role in this effort by first declaring its commitment for net zero emissions by 2050. It is true that we account for a small part of the global emissions, but we hope that the ambitious standards that we have set for ourselves will act as normative power and will lead by example, especially with regard to the United States and to China. The second one is the geopolitical aspect and the external dimension of the EU's climate action. The Green Deal influences the EU's political and trade relations in its neighborhood, but also beyond. The ever less dependence on fossil fuels affects long-standing dynamics with traditional gas and oil suppliers. The recent Russian aggression in Ukraine has only accelerated a process that was already on track, with the EU now aiming at eradicating its dependence on Russian fossil fuels as soon as possible through its ambitious Repower EU plan. We also have new trade instruments, such as the Carbon Adjustment Border Mechanism, which will reshape trade dynamics with third countries. It's an issue that requires special attention in order to avoid carbon leakage. And of course, there's a possibility of cooperating with several countries in our region, and not least in the Middle East and North Africa, and Greece, because of its geographic location, is extremely well placed to And in fact, it's already playing an important role with several interesting projects well underway. The third reading of this dimension is of societal acceptance, which is key to the success of our endeavor. The pathway towards net zero emissions will require hard work and tough work and will inevitably put pressure on vulnerable citizens and regions in transition. The ongoing energy crisis, coming on top of the recent COVID-19 pandemic, has amply demonstrated that there's discrepancies between the EU member states. Every EU member state has a different starting point in terms of their energy mix, as well as the GDP. So what we're trying to do in the EU is to agree on an effective collective response that will mitigate the impact of a problem affecting the level playing field of the single market. These are drawbacks that exist. We're aware of them. They will be recurrent in the future. We hope we'll do everything we can so that they do not derail the whole effort. But again, only teamwork and collective actions are the answer to the problem. There's also other very encouraging elements indicating that Europe will find a way to overcome the crisis. I refer in particular to the Recovery and Resilience Fund, which has represented a milestone, a U-turn in the history of the EU, helping the member states to mitigate the calamitous effects of the pandemic and invest in green and digital technologies. The Social Climate Fund, which offers a new instrument that will help us achieve a new, better living environment for EU citizens. And overall, there's tangible evidence of EU solidarity that strengthens and moves the European project forward, as Robert Schuman had highlighted already 72 years ago. And of course, again, all this, we hope that we can contribute to the achievement of the 2030 agenda by the time that we have set for ourselves. I heard many of the previous speakers refer to crossroads. We are at a crossroads, both the global community and the European Union. The decisions that we take today will have a massive impact on the lives of our children and our grandchildren. The transformation that we will undergo can only be compared to what happened in our continent after the Second World War. And everyone, governments, businesses, citizens will need to do their share. So we are confident that we can get there. And if Europe can succeed in achieving its targets, then hopefully the rest of the world will do as well. The stakes are high. So we should be rising to the occasion and get this right. I wish you a very good and fruitful event from Brussels. I'm sorry that I could not be there with a physical presence. In fact, I'm missing it by one day as I'll be traveling to Athens tomorrow. But a big hug to all the friends, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to address this event and all the distinguished guests that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. This was an excellent overview. It underlines the big reality of what I called the transition before that is happening to an extent which is unseen for at least since the Second World War. And it also underlines, I think very nicely, the fact that the management of the different crises that the EU is facing is also helping the EU to advance. The EU is also changing in a very significant way, and we are very glad and proud to have the right representative of our country in this very important process. Thank you again for connecting with us, and we look forward maybe next year to have you with us physically. Thank you.
Absolutely. But also do come to, I mean, we do things together in Brussels, but we need to convince George to show up there. And he should bring those wonderful shoes that he was wearing today.
It's part of the plan, promise, we will try. Thanks again, thanks again.
Bye.
Okay, now we have, before we really move to the full panel that was already announced, we have one more speaker, Grigoris Zarotiadis, who is sitting next to me. He is the Dean of Faculty of Economic and Political Science in the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. And he will talk to us about SDGs, about the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, and more particularly about an observatory that the university is interesting. I think the issue is of great importance, and we are very glad to concentrate specifically on this issue because we do consider it worth a special attention. Thank you, Grigoris, for being with us. Thank you, Mrs. Zarotiadis. The floor is yours.
Special thanks to everybody, to the organizers, to ACS Athens, to Ideagen. It's the first time that I have the opportunity to communicate with you, and I hope it will not be the last. Special thanks also to Allonet. I really feel pleased and honored being here with you in such an important and contributing event like the one we are having today. I'm also proud representing my faculty and Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, and especially representing the chapter of SDSN, which is responsible for the region of the Black Sea. Nikos Theodosiou, a colleague of mine, professor in the Polytechnic School of Aristotle University, will contribute to this discussion also in the next minutes because he is chairing the specific chapter. SDSN is the Sustainable Development Solutions Network of the United Nations, which is responsible for the promotion of the SDGs globally, worldwide, and the way how it is organized. It is in national and regional chapters, in national and regional nodes. And the chapter which is responsible for the whole Black Sea region is located in Thessaloniki in Aristotle University. For the functioning of the chapter which is responsible for the Black Sea, we have the support and the contribution of all universities of the Black Sea area, the so-called Black Sea Universities Network, which is very important, and it reveals the importance of Greece and Thessaloniki having such an important and prestigious and contributing initiative located in Thessaloniki. Now, in the frame of SDSN Black Sea, one of the activities that we realized, beside the many other activities which will be probably presented by Nikos, is that we conducted the feasibility study for the creation of an observatory for SDGs in the Black Sea. This was done with the support of Black Sea Economic Cooperation and the funding of BISEC. And having the study conducted and fulfilled, we have now in our hands, so to say, an analytical business plan of how this observatory could be realized and functioning. Let me say just a few words about the idea we have on the content of the observatory, on the goals, on the activities that can be realized. First of all, in order to have a successful implementation of the SDGs in the time span the world community has defined in 2015, we need to have a continuous observation, a continuous reporting on the progress we are making in the different areas of the world. And this is actually the main activity that will be realized in the frame of the observatory. In the feasibility study, we have done research and a very detailed description of the databases that we have to use, on the different algorithms that will be used in order to be able to report on a periodical basis the progress that we are making with respect to the SDGs in the Black Sea region. Allow me to say that the Black Sea region, for reasons that you can understand, is very important. Let me put it in a polite way, is very important for the realization of the SDGs in terms of socio-economic aspects, but also in terms of environmental aspects. Now, beside to the main activity of the observatory, which will be the reporting of the progress, there are two other additional activities which are very important. The one is the awareness raising and the realization of specifically focused seminars and workshops for the staff of public and private stakeholders from the region, from the whole region, in order to strengthen their ability to contribute the private and the public sector to the realization of the SDGs. And the third activity, which is also very important, based upon the reports and the studies that will be periodically realized in the frame of the observatory, we want also to have a consulting service provided not only for the public but also for the private sector. Let me give you an example of what it could mean. For instance, the observatory could support private and public entities towards the raising of funding through green and blue bonds. Perhaps in the frame of the next panel, we will be able to discuss a bit more on what it means and how significant it could be. I really believe that, and with Nikos together, that we will be able, Aristotle University with BSUN, the Black Sea Universities Network, to realize, now to move one step forward and to go into the realization, into the establishment of the observatory in the next months. We are in an effort right now to mobilize the necessary funding and support, and we strongly believe that it will be possible in the next months to start. I would be very pleased and honored if the prestigious organizations that are participating in this event could also support us and contribute to the realization of the goals of the observatory. And a final word, perhaps, because we are speaking about interesting times, allow me to say, with the freedom of speech that an academician has, that we live not only in interesting times, but we live in revolutionary times. And in terms of the global political and economic literature, a revolutionary period is whenever the gap between possibilities and reality is rising. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it is rising in our times. The possibilities of humanity, given the extremely fast technical change, technology and know-how changes, the possibilities are rising with an extreme velocity, but at the same time, unfortunately, we are not able to use them, to utilize them at the level that we should. And I think that this speaks for the interest and revolutionary times that we are living in. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can all understand why I wanted Mr. Zarotiadis to have his own part of the time before the panel starts. Thank you for this introduction. I want only to underline what I think is obvious, what we call Black Sea. In fact, it's much more than just around the Black Sea countries. This part of the world is politically and strategically extremely important, and advance the SDGs in this part of the world, it can be a very significant mission for what is probably the most, or one of the most important universities in this part of the world. So thank you, Mr. Zarotiadis, for doing that. I will invite now the other members of the panel, Mrs. Papaschinopoulou and Mr. Martzoukos, to also join us and to start really the panel. I see Mr. Theodosiou, who is connected. Can we hear you, Mr. Theodosiou? Is the sound fine with you?
I can hear you perfectly.
Excellent. Mr. Theodosiou is a professor, civil engineering department, again to the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, and also, as it was mentioned just before, chair of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, the Black Sea area. I will introduce the other panelists when their time will come to intervene. Can we proceed, Mr. Theodosiou? Can we hear your introduction and I think you have complementary information of great interest. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for the invitation. It's really a great honor for me to be here, to be with you. I'm very, very sorry that I'm not physically with you in Athens, but unfortunately, a lot of issues arose the last few days, and I needed to be at my university. So I will start with some complementary issues that Professor Zarotiadis raised about, especially about this network, the Sustainable Development Solutions Network. These networks were introduced by the United Nations when they actually proposed the Sustainable Development Goals. And they are called Sustainable Development Solutions Networks because the United Nations expect from these networks to provide new and innovative ideas, new solutions for the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. And we can all understand that new and innovative ideas and new solutions also mean great opportunities for young people, for researchers, for professors to introduce something that is could be applicable and could help us achieve our common goal, as it was mentioned earlier, our common goal of implementing or succeeding at least partially at least the partial implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, because I don't think that anyone is that optimistic that can assume that we are going to implement the SDGs in 2030 as they were described in 2015 and in the Paris Agreement. So these networks are mostly university networks, and this, as I said, gives a great opportunity, especially for young people, because I see that we are focusing on young people. We are expecting young people with clear minds and with the vision that young people have to provide these new ideas, and with the help of their professors and more experienced researchers, to try to transform these vague ideas into actual solutions. So this is something very important. This is a great opportunity for universities to participate in this very actively in this common effort of the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. As Grigoris said, our network, the SDSM Black Sea, is hosted in Greece, is hosted by Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, and we can all understand the importance of that, even that such a network is hosted in Greece, and the opportunities that means for Greek researchers or even entrepreneurs, because we are talking about solutions, so we are talking about implementation, and implementation is connected with entrepreneurship. This network comprises 12 countries, most of the Balkan countries, all the countries all around the Black Sea, up to Azerbaijan and the Caspian. So this, what connects us is actually the seas, the Mediterranean, the Black Sea, the Caspian. And this is another issue that is very important for what we are discussing right now about blue economy, because blue economy is economy coming from or related to the seas and the oceans. And as Greece is a country with a lot of tradition, extensive tradition, not only in the past, but also in the current times, on activities that are related to the sea, you can all understand what role can Greece play through this network, and as a connection factor between all these countries and all these seas. So keep that in mind as an opportunity, as a great opportunity of collaboration through this United Nations network for the implementation of the SDGs, and especially those related to the blue economy, because most of the SDGs are related to the blue economy, some of course more than others. For example, SDG 14, which is life below water, which is the main SDG related to the seas is, of course, more related to blue economy than others, but also the economic growth and other economic-oriented SDGs are also related to blue economy, as, of course, climate actions, where everything results to climate actions and the impacts to the mitigation and adaptation of our response to the climate crisis as we face it right now. And one of the main factors that is related to current times and to climate action and to blue economy is energy. We are going through an energy crisis, not only in Europe, but a global energy crisis. We are trying to shift our efforts towards the implementation of technologies that are related to renewable energy, to harvest more energy from renewables. So this is, we already discussed about opportunities from the crisis. This is an opportunity from the crisis. This is an opportunity for everyone, for all of us, to shift the energy mix, the energy acquisition from renewable sources. And on that, I would like to add another opportunity. Recently, not more than a month ago, the United Nations, understanding this need to emphasize on the energy crisis, they formed a council. They call it the Council of Engineers for the energy transition. This is a group of engineers. At the moment, it's 35 engineers from all different engineering disciplines and from all over the world. And they formed this council, which is a body that will counsel the Secretary General of the United Nations directly for the energy transition. And I have the honor of being selected as a member of this Council of Engineers for the energy transition. And I think that this, again, is a very good opportunity for everyone to try through this council to find new pathways for the energy crisis, and through the pathways of the energy crisis to the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals as we expect them and as we want them, and as fast as we can, not by 2030, but as fast as we can, because time is running out. So, and I understand that my time is running out also. So I will close my introduction here, and if there are any questions or comments, I will be glad to respond.
Well, all this is extremely interesting. There's so much interest and so much potential in all that. But of course, time is the enemy in a certain way, so we will resist the temptation to go further in questions, and we will proceed with our panel. Thank you, Nikos, very much for your participation. Much appreciated. I'm sure we will have other opportunities in the next steps to come back to these important issues.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. We will turn to the other members of our panel. Let me now introduce them. Dr. Papaschinopoulou is the founder and CEO of the Maritime Corporate, and she brings a unique point of view in this process. Very pleased to have you with us. Mr. Martzoukos is Vice Admiral of the Greek Navy, and he's Vice President of ELISME. ELISME is the Hellenic Institute of Strategic Studies, a remarkable panel. Let me say, I didn't want to run the risk of being disconnected when we had the connection with the first speaker, just to say that this panel is built in the logic of Allylon. We address ourselves to the possible young professionals, Greeks and friends of Greece around the world, or students, or businessmen, or start-uppers, or partners of potential partners of Greek business, to attract their attention to what is a fantastic theme, the theme of the panel, the maritime strategy and the blue economy, the blue growth in Greece, which is a big experience and a big challenge in itself, and a big opportunity. We will turn to our Vice Admiral, to Mr. Martzoukos, to deal, we went through the SDGs. We want to see a little bit the strategy of the maritime strategy of Greece in its development and economic dimensions. Mr. Martzoukos, please proceed.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my views on this very important subject. I would say that we should approach the sea as a great highway where travel and traffic is much easier and cheaper than by land. So when we are talking about a sea power, we are talking about a force multiplier directly connected to wealth, well-being, opportunities, progress, influence, middle class, democracy, all these things which are directly connected. And this is, historically, it's not possible for a maritime power to have, for a long time at least, dictatorship. It's impossible, because it's the internal society of such it is organized in such a way that this is also impossible to happen. Now, Thucydides, or Thucydides in Greek, has very much analytically described the benefits of being a state, a maritime power. Admiral Alfred Thayer Mahan, which is the most important strategist, American strategist of the 19th century, has set the conditions, the necessary conditions for a state in order to turn to a maritime power. These conditions are briefly to have access, this state has to have access to very important sea routes. Second is to have adequate coastline, which must be suitable for littoral activities, must have defensible harbor linked to the interior, to have a proper national character of its people, and mainly people who are tended to trade, and last but not least, a governmental attitude and process is also affecting the outlook of that state as a naval power abroad. So Greece satisfies all these criteria, and this is why it has a long tradition in this as maritime power. And all the statistics today agree that Greece continues to be a great maritime power. What is needed now is an holistic maritime vision and policy in order to maximize these benefits. This kind of vision could include, we could see Greece as a maritime economic center of Eastern Mediterranean, a transportation and energy hub, a sustaining and further improving shipping, leisure and tourism 12 months per year, fishing and fisheries strategic development, improving maritime services, exploiting undersea hydrocarbons, and develop renewable energy. So in conclusion, I would say that a maritime strategy should focus mainly in 6 main sectors. First is transport, which is shipping, domestic navigation, ports, terminals, shipbuilding. Services, which is brokers, agents, bunkering, inspections, financing, insurance, pilotage, maritime law, rescue, ship supply. Third is resources exploitation, as we said, fishing, hydrocarbons, etc. Public sector, which is Navy, Coast Guard, training, education, governance, hydrographic institutions, etc., etc. Leisure and tourism, that means cruising, littoral activities, yachting, marinas, and last is research, consultancy, oceanography and oceanology institutes, maritime academies, etc., etc. So besides all these, the aforementioned benefits, we could additionally have more benefits like keeping and increase the population on the Greek islands. That is very important. Also, this kind of maritime strategy will limit the Turkish expansionist policy. More Greeks will be occupied with maritime professions. And last but not least, young Greeks, scientists and technicians will not flee abroad since they will have jobs here. Thank you.
Well, that's a very impressive enumeration of potential. I think everybody understands what kind of potential we are talking about. Everybody understands already that this is a theme of crucial importance for the future of Greece. The aspects concerning energy, etc., are also very important for the EU in its totality. And I think we will come also to points of big powers competition as the discussion advances. Let's turn now to Mrs. Papaschinopoulou. We would like to hear some indications of key numbers, eventually key statistics, sectors that are of priority, the blue sectors that you believe can be highlighted, and what can be attractive for investors and entrepreneurs that look at us from outside or from the inside.
Thank you, Angelos, so very much. I will certainly not bore our audience with statistics, but I think that it's important to mention certain numbers because, as Pythagoras said, what we cannot measure, we do not know. So I'm very grateful to talk, actually, for once, on the subject that is a good example of how Greece is faring worldwide and on EU level, and this has to do with blue economy. So just for all of us to remember and never to forget, Greece belongs among the big five in the European Union when it comes down to the percentage of the gross added value and the blue economy. And it's among the big three when it comes down to employment related to blue economy. So I think that these two parameters that they show us very clearly where we stand, with 350,000 jobs that are related to blue economy and a percentage of 5% of GDP related to blue growth. Perhaps for you to get a comparison, I was looking at the US figures and at the US ocean economy, as you call it, in the US. So I was just saying that in the US you're having 2.3 million jobs related to the ocean economy, and just about 2% of the US GDP is linked to blue economy. So if you just compare, and you understand what we're comparing, you will see how significant blue economy is for Greece. Now, not just that, we have certain sectors that are dominating the Greek economy, and it is, first of all, coastal tourism, which again for the US is a big issue, coastal tourism. And then we have, of course, maritime transport. I don't have to tell anybody that with 20% of global fleet that Greece is the global leader in shipping. And then, as a third sector dominating the Greek blue economy, we have the so-called living resources. If you have a look at the numbers again, I mean, you will see that there is quite an imbalance there. So it's about 75% of the jobs that are hanging together with coastal tourism, about 15 to 16% to maritime transport, and the rest, which is 4 to 5%, to living resources. So this is a strength, but it's also a kind of a challenge for the future. We should definitely look towards a Greek economy that is more orientated towards emerging sectors, this is for sure, and some of them were already mentioned by Vice Admiral Martzoukos. Now, I have also to say that after years of financial crisis in Greece, and of course, taking into consideration the impact of the COVID years, that we have seen that Greece's position in terms of EU ranking has deteriorated a little bit. But this shows us that we definitely have to focus more on certain sectors that are, as I said, emerging. Let me just start by saying that the big sectors where we're still very good and we're trying very hard right now, like shipping. For shipping, decarbonization and digitalization are the big challenges, but also port activities, as mentioned, where both central planning and some ancillary services are, I would say, faring better, but we definitely need to make sure that our Piraeus port, for example, and our Thessaloniki port, why not, that they are, I would say, faring well in the competition as major hubs linking Greece to near, far, Middle East and Africa. This is very important. I was thinking of ship repairing and building. There it is China, actually, which is the big champion with shipbuilding after coastal tourism #2. For Greece, I think that we are on a way forward.
Can start.
Yes, starting right now. And last but not least, the services around the maritime transport sector. I mean, it is quite remarkable if you have a look at the presence, the overwhelming presence of the Greek fleet worldwide. It is really quite a paradoxon that the services around the maritime transport, that they are not as evolving as they should. I'm talking to the legal services, bunkering, for example, brokerage, diplomacy, financing, very important. So we definitely have these 4 sectors where we should be focusing on, and I will certainly refer again to some of the sectors mentioned here, like blue technology, biotechnology, like desalination, like deep sea mining, like, for example, policies for climate protection. I mean, here we have definitely new sectors, emerging sectors where entrepreneurship could definitely make the difference. Now, one more word, because I think it's very important. You know, when you're talking about blue economy worldwide, you will see that there always has to be a vibrant private sector which goes hand in hand with governmental willingness, activity, credibility, regulatory framework, and financing. So this is something that we always have to emphasize on. These two, they have practically to go together, to navigate together, so that we, at the end of the day, have a Greek blue economy which is even more vibrant and a great source of sustainable change. Thank you.
It's a very important wish for the future. It does not correspond exactly to the reality in our country, but one needs to underline and of course, endeavor to move in that direction. We agree. Thank you. Very, very interesting. I would ask Grigoris if you can say a few words about the specific interest of northern Greece, but time flies, so let's try to be brief, but we would appreciate 2 or 3 points of particular focus of interest from your point of view for the northern part of the country.
Yes, a very interesting discussion, truly. And allow me just to remind us all that blue economy has also another very important characteristic, not simply production of wealth out of the sea or in relation with the sea, but in a sustainable way. This is very important to understand the notion of blue economy in a sustainable way in socio-economic and environmental sense. Northern Greece, as already said, is also very, for Northern Greece, for Macedonia, for Thessaloniki, is also very important to develop blue economy-related activities. Let me give you an example, for instance, a cross-national interstate project realized under realization in the last 10 years, the so-called Via Carpathia route. I don't know if you are aware of it, which is a route connecting the harbor of Klaipeda in the Baltics down to Thessaloniki port, which reveals how important, not only for us, but for the rest of Central and Eastern European markets, the connectivity of the Greek ports and of the port of Thessaloniki to the Baltics is. And also, with respect to that, because Dr. Papaschinopoulou mentioned it already, I want also to stress out that there is a big difference going on for the importance of the Greek ports. The port of Piraeus, port of Alexandroupoli, port of Thessaloniki. And this difference is that from being majorly points of entrance, they will be in the future majorly points of outgoing activities and trade. And this is because of the importance of the rising importance of the next big thing, Africa, on the one hand. On the other hand, because of the fact that navigation, you may probably know it, is now possible through, unfortunately, possible through the North Pole, which creates another route for the trade of goods and for capital movements as well.
Change of geopolitics.
Yeah.
But dominated by Russia.
Well, that's true. Nevertheless,
yes.
Nevertheless, this is a development which will last for the next decades, and hopefully the situation will be also different in geopolitical senses. So therefore, I think that all these things speaks about the importance of blue economy. Let me say just a final word. I think that we are lacking, on the other hand, however, because we have to mention these things as well in order to see solutions, we are lacking in terms of education. And especially we are lacking in terms of education in Northern Greece, in Thessaloniki, education with respect to maritime activities and blue economy activities. So I think that this is something that we have to invest also in the future.
Well, this last intervention and the three, of course, and the two before that, underline the one fundamental fact, which is that we have learned it when we tried the last 5 years to develop the economic diplomacy of the European Union. In our world, for the fundamental issues like the maritime strategy and the blue economy, you cannot distinguish security and geopolitics from economics. Economics are completely integrated to geopolitics, and we need to think in terms of geopolitics, in fact, that includes security, if we want to be really effective and useful in any significant task related to such important horizontal questions. That's why I would not like to finish this panel without giving a chance to Mr. Martzoukos to give us a few points on the security situation in Eastern Mediterranean.
Well, in order to have a maritime strategy causing prosperity and stability, this is impossible without having a sound maritime security strategy, which is capable of protecting the maritime domain against threats and also intentional unlawful acts. We know that Europe is energy dependent. We see very clearly that now. And also most of the raw material is imported by sea. So EU has to take very important steps related to a maritime security strategy. They are already doing that. And also, to have this one between others, you have to have an integrated surveillance system including space applications. This is not, I could mention a lot of obstacles between member states to cooperate to this direction, but maybe it's not time now. So I continue and saying that there is a very wide spectrum consisting of threats and challenges in the maritime domain. Just to mention some of those, I would say piracy, illegal immigration, narcotics, environmental degradation, illegal and unregulated fishing, arms trafficking, maritime accidents, disputes over maritime borders, of course, revisionist and expansive behaviors, maritime terrorism, cyber security against shipping, etc. For all these issues, UN, I have to remind that, only the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, the UNCLOS, governs all these international maritime issues and security challenges. So it is in the Western interests to keep stability in Eastern Mediterranean and under the current circumstances to contribute to a fast exploitation of energy resources in that area according to international law. East Med project is a vital project which connects physically Eastern Mediterranean to Europe. Any delay in its construction coming from destabilizing states not committed to UNCLOS should be faced effectively. Time is running. After Russian invasion in Ukraine, Western reliability is tested. And to increase the defense spending is not enough. Maybe it's time for the West to reconsider the policy which must be decisive, effective, and holistic, not selective, against any violation of international law and any revisionist behavior. Russia's main arguments are historical reasons, a need for strategic depth or vital space, that reminds me of something in the past, spheres of influence, protection of minorities. So I have to say that for the same exactly reasons, Turkey has invaded Cyprus in 1974 and keeps currently its aggressive and expansive policy against Greece and Cyprus. 2 days ago, we had the anniversary of the Turkish invasion in Cyprus, which is a country not recognized by Turkey, the only country in the world. So, at the same time, of course, we saw the president of Turkey 2 days ago in a symbolic photo with President Putin and the president of Iran, Raisi. This is also something symbolic that we have to have in mind. So, coming back to the Greek government now, besides the recent increase in the defense spending, Greece has undertaken recently steps toward improving the defense industry. And I think that this is a very good time and very good chance for investing, foreign investments, and cooperation in that sector. Some indicative areas of interest would be robotics, unmanned systems, systems concerning command control, communication, computer intelligence, artificial intelligence, digital infrastructure, renewable energy, non-lethal weapons, satellite systems, surveillance and tracking sensors, cybersecurity, ship and boat building, engine, soldiers equipment, and training equipment. So there's a whole spectrum. I think it's the right time for cooperation and foreign investment in a country which is under continuous threat. Thank you.
I'm sure we could say a lot more, but we need to finish this panel here. And of course, I would not like it to finish it with anything else than what is really our main target, which is our youth, and you are start-uppers eventually. So I would leave this really last word to you, Mary, if you can concentrate on this aspect, which is your territory, and we close with that.
Yes, but you will bear for me for one more minute, because I think what the Admiral said is of particular importance. Yes, defense should achieve maritime safety, security, and governance. That's for sure. And without all three of them, we have no economic development, and we can forget blue economy. So it's of particular importance. Now, again, I was having a look at the US figures. You know, it struck me, I have to tell you. If you look at the blue report by the European Union, you will see that the issue of defense and blue economy, it appears only once in 120 pages. If you have a look at the report on the US ocean economy, you will see that after coastal tourism, defense is the second biggest sector related to the US ocean economy. I think that this shows, and we heard something in the morning in this respect, it shows that Greece and the US, they can definitely work together what it comes down to defense and their impact on blue economy. So full stop there, and let's go in the direction of startups. After 28 years abroad, I came back to Greece and I launched my own company, which is Maritime Corporate Diplomacy. And we are negotiating with foreign governments and trying to bring dispute to a certain resolution, negotiating with foreign governments worldwide. Now, what I've learned in this year is, number one, there is a tremendous opportunity for entrepreneurial activities related to blue economy in Greece. Number two, it is definitely important, and I'm saying that specifically for young people. Alilon is dedicated and devoted to young people, but also to women entrepreneurs, because women are as good in innovation as men, and this is definitely a fact.
Better.
Yes, well, okay.
Sure.
I don't want to provoke you, Admiral, but yes. The thing is that we have to dream big, because times that are difficult and times of crisis are times to dream big, and then to dare, and then to do. So 3D is my formula for startups in blue economy: dream, dare, do. And I'm quite sure that the Greek government will more and more understand how important it is to work together with the private sector in creating a vibrant blue economy in Greece. Thank you.
All this brings us to an end of, I think, a wonderful panel, very rich in content. I will say simply that I think it's obvious to anybody who followed this discussion. What will happen in Eastern Mediterranean will decide to a very great extent the future of our country, nothing less. And it will decide most probably to a very great extent the future of Europe and our European Union, because there are so many things at stake here. It's not just a small sector among others. It's of fundamental importance, and it will play a key role in the global balance in a very difficult situation for the global world, in a fragmented global world. So thank you, the members of the panel, for their participation, those who joined us from far away also, and thank to the organizers and Ideagen above all for giving us this opportunity. We were delighted to have this panel in the context of this event today. Thank you all for your attention.
Some very important takeaways. We thank the panel again of distinguished guests and wonderful topics. I'm sure you all have a lot to think about and to be diplomats of echoing the message of our panel. Just to highlight a few things, it is of the Admiral, it is in the best interest of the West to secure stability in Eastern Mediterranean. Of course, how important the Eastern Mediterranean region is. Also echoing the message of how technology is advancing in light speeds and how humanity must keep up, not only with technology, but as humans and evolving as humans. So we are going to take a 10-minute break, more to come. We thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.